Hey, what's up guys, John here. While America is enjoying their Memorial Day weekend,
160 years ago this month, first American soldier was laid to rest at these hallowed grounds.
something very big just happened. South Korea, Japan, and China just formed an alliance. They call it a new beginning. This is what they're calling it, a new beginning, May 27th. And what this new beginning looks like.
Leaders from China, Japan, and South Korea met for their first three-way talks in 4 years on Monday in Seoul.
Agreed to revive three-way cooperation to boost trade.
You think about this. Japan's the largest holder of U.S. debt. And so if they form an alliance with China, China just sold $53.3 billion worth of T-bills. It was reported last week. When you have this type of movement, if Japan starts selling off our debt and they start to move away from the dollar, which many countries already are, 20% of U.S. oil, global oil, those payments are settled in other local currencies, not in the U.S. dollar. That was 2023. So we're moving into a pretty quick direction away from the dollar. China urges economics be separated from politics. What they're saying here, the U.S. dollar has been weaponized. And this weaponization, you look at Russia, for example, this weaponization is believe what I believe, do what I say, or you're going to face financial consequences. And that's essentially what's been happening to other countries. So whether you agree or disagree with what's going on in America and what America's beliefs are, at the end of the day, business is business. And you don't want to get penalized financially, or another country what you're doing business with gets penalized, then indirectly impacts you. You want to probably separate yourself from the chaos and from that drama. Well, the more you look into this, the more you'll realize that we're walking into some really interesting times. In this video, I'm going to break it down and show you exactly what's going on. Please hit the like button, YouTube will share the content, educate more people about what's happening in the world's economy. And today's video is sponsored by Rua Gold, but more on that in just a little bit. Take a look at this. So, Seoul, Chinese premier, praised what he called a restart in relations with Japan and South Korea as he met their leaders for the first in three-way talks in 4 years on Monday, agreeing to revive trade and security dialogues hampering by global tensions. The Chinese premier met with South Korean President Yoon Suk Yeol and Japanese Prime Minister in Seoul with efforts to revitalize a three-party trade agreement negotiations stalled in 2019. Now, as this summit opened, Lee said at the meeting, both a restart and a new beginning, and called for the comprehensive resumption of cooperation between East Asia's economic powerhouse. But for this to happen, politics should be separated from economic and trade issues, calling for an end to protectionism and decoupling of supply chains. So decoupling of supply chains. For China, South Korea, and Japan, our close ties will not change. The spirit of cooperation achieved through crisis response will not change, and our mission to safeguard regional peace and stability will not change. Gold and precious metals have entered what looks like a 1970s style bull run, except this time it could be more dramatic. On August 15th, 1971, President Nixon took us off the gold standard. In the following decade, gold went from $35 an ounce to $850 an ounce, a 24x return. If we look at what's happening in the world today, countries around the world are de-dollarizing. America has record debt of $34 trillion, with unfunded liabilities of another $175 trillion. The U.S. needs to sell $11 trillion worth of debt every single year from now until 2030. What does this mean when countries are selling U.S. debt and not buying it? Just last week it was reported that China sold $53.3 billion in U.S. debt to buy gold. You have Michael Burry placing massive bets on gold. You have central banks buying gold at record amounts. Why are countries moving away from the dollar? Is it because the US dollar has been weaponized over the last several years? Is it because the US dollar was a store of value that countries trusted? Or was it because countries needed the US dollar to trade in global markets? Well, now none of that is true. As JP Morgan once said, gold is money and everything else is debt. The big opportunity right now might not be gold itself, but finding a company that is scaling inside of gold mining. Let's look at Rua Gold, for example. Eric Sprott, with an estimated net worth of $1.1 billion. Peter Marone, who recently sold Yamana Gold for $4.8 billion. And Oliver Lennox King, the former chairman of Frontier Gold, which was sold for $2 billion to Newmont are all heavily invested in the success of Rua Gold. During the madness of 2020, everything changed in New Zealand. The near 50 years the country went full ESG. Conserve nature, no mining, no destruction of earth, or extracting minerals, to now bringing in a new Prime Minister, Christopher Luxon, who is the former CEO of Air New Zealand. And now the country is moving towards and extracting the minerals that the country was blessed with, which have been nearly untouched. New Zealand is part of a chain of countries called the Ring of Fire, where volcanic activity has brought mineral riches to the surface. As you can see, global trade for gold is about 1.18 grams per ton, which means if you extract 1 ton of ore from Earth, you'll get 1.18 grams of gold. In places like Papua New Guinea, Indonesia, Japan, Alaska, Nevada, it's much higher. But in a place like New Zealand, you're talking 25 times higher. It's like being on a completely different planet. The area that Rua Gold bought for cheap before the regime change has already produced 2 million ounces of gold in the 40s and 50s for a grade of 24.5 grams per ton. They bought 50% of this area. In it, there were 4 areas that were past producing gold mines, and the former company owned them before computers, before the technological advancements inside of mining. And back then they hit the water fault line and stopped drilling, meaning these 4 pits are open and there's the potential that there's a lot more gold in the ground. So the plan is to consolidate these 4 mines, extract the value, and be one of the largest gold producers in all of New Zealand. How does this company compare to other companies? The entire market cap of Rua Gold, stock ticker NZAUF, is $25 million. Let's look at Federation. They own a company called Blackwater. They just raised $200 million for one site, meaning they believe there's a lot more value than $200 million. And Rua has 4 of these projects. Now, I can't compare them one for one. I've never been there. At the end of the day, all businesses come down to 3 things: the team, the product or service, and the amount of demand inside of the marketplace. Rua has an amazing team located in one of the best places on planet Earth to realize their vision. In an economic environment where hundreds of millions or billions of people are looking to invest in a safe haven asset like gold, I believe Rua has a very bright future in front of it. For more information, you can click the link in the description just below this video. Now, look at this. America, the petrodollar. Now, the petrodollar is based off petro, obviously. Well, when we're selling 1 million barrels, 1 million barrels of oil, and they say that they're going to sell this because by strategically releasing the reserves between Memorial Day and July 4th, we are ensuring sufficient supply flows to the tri-state and Northeast at a time of hardworking Americans need it the most. Well, why not just open up refineries? Right? Why not just make oil, rampant, right? To where people can easily access it, to where, it's $1.50, $2 a gallon, like it was, 4 or 5 years ago. Well, the reason is because weakening refining and carbon taxes put 1/5 of global refining capacity at risk. Europe and China face the highest closure risk due to declining demand and environmental regulations, mainly environmental regulations. Demand's still high. But when you look at what this is going to do, China is not stepping away from oil. India, they're not stepping away from oil anytime soon. Maybe in 5-10 years, possible. But for the coming 5 years, it's going to be America stepping away from oil. So when you have this situation that's unfolding, and then you look at this, over 20% of the world's oil refining capacity is at risk of closure, falling. So when you have this situation, what does the dollar really mean? You could say it means our military, right? That's what the dollar means. Well, look, if they have 40% of the world's population already aligned on BRICS, our military can't stop the world. So all it could do is push us into chaos, which, it looks like, we're kind of moving in that direction right now. One way or another, the world just doesn't feel right. Maybe we walk into a situation where China and Taiwan step into it. It could be a variety of different reasons, but something doesn't feel right. Even Ray Dalio came up recently, 2 days ago, and said Ray Dalio sees U.S. on brink of great disruption as election looms. And what his prediction is. It says, as tensions built in global financial markets over persistent inflation and the threat of fragmentation, Bridgewater Associates founder Ray Dalio the perspective of an investor making bets on these economic changes. Dalio is known for applying lessons from history to his investment decisions, predicting the 2008 global financial crisis based on past crises and profiting heavily while other hedge funds struggled. His book, Principles for Dealing with the Changing World Order, described a 6-stage big cycle of history. Now, he says U.S. is already in stage 5, right? He says on the brink of great disruption. And so what this looks like, his stage 5, is it is characterized by excessive debt creation and the international order being challenged due to great power conflict, big technology changes, a strategic disruption act of nature, droughts, floods, pandemics. When these things happen together, this is stage 5 of the cycle. We are in stage 5, which means on the brink of a great disruption, but not yet in one. What happens is still up to us, most importantly, our leaders, to either pull back or go over the brink. And so he says whether you want Biden to win or whether you want Trump to win, it's not going to make any difference. And I would agree with that. It's not going to make a difference. A lot of people would like to think that it will, but you look at how far the world has moved over the last 3-4 years. I don't think there's any coming back from this. You look at how much debt we've assumed. You look at all of the enemies that we have created. You look at all the inflation. Look at where American consumers are. We're $17 trillion in debt. 80% of Americans consider eating McDonald's a luxury, right? We're not just going to step in and that's just going to go away. All those problems are going to go away. I think that things are going to get worse in general. I don't think any one person is going to be able to save this. He says, in the U.S. elections, there's generally a belief that President Biden will not be capable of serving his full term, so there's a question of who will be president if not Biden, should Biden get elected. There's a worry that Democrats might be more influenced by the extreme left than the moderate left. This is, according to Ray Dalio. Well, what he's saying is if Donald Trump is president, he will be very protectionist and will raise tariffs a lot, which will be inflationary. If Biden becomes president, taxes will, most importantly, corporate tax will probably be raised. In either case, there will be large deficits, which will threaten the bond market. So it's one thing after the next. While this came out, everyone's heard about this story that, this is 2 weeks ago, but it feels like 2 years ago. What happened in Iran, the president? Well, what he was working on was something called BRICS Pay. It says in March, the Kremlin advisor advocated for BRICS payments. He informed TASS that a proposed resolution entails adopting a blockchain-based payment system known as BRICS Pay instead of a traditional currency. We believe that creating an independent BRICS payment system is an important goal for the future, which would be based on the state-of-the-art tools such as digital technologies and blockchain. The main thing is to make sure it is convenient for governments, common people, and businesses, as well as cost-effective and free of politics. The discussion of a common currency was once hot, but it has since lost momentum, right? They say the recent demise of this person adds the fear of strengthening of BRICS economics bloc. Well, I think we're walking into the inevitable against the U.S. dollar. This came out just 5 days ago. CBDC participants, China, Thailand, signed local currency agreement. So the agreement's already signed. And what this looks like, the M-Bridge project, a cross-border CBDC initiative, was originally launched by the Bank of Thailand and the Hong Kong Monetary Authority to make faster, cheaper international payments. The Central Bank of China and the UAE subsequently joined the project, which now has over 25 observers, including central banks from around the World Bank, and the IMF. So these are all major contributors to how the world moves, and they're all they're observers. These 25 observers, and these 25 observers, you look at basically every large bank throughout the world, Australia, all the big ones. So far, M-Bridge has Asia, Middle Eastern, regional bent. The observers show the same pattern. The group contains participants from every continent, with 6 in Asia, Indonesia, Korea, Malaysia, Nepal, Philippines, Turkey, and 5 from the Middle East, Iran, Egypt, Jordan, Israel, Saudi Arabia, the U.S. represented by New York Innovation Center. This is where we're all going in this direction, I believe, over the next couple of years, and I don't think there's any stopping this train. I don't think there's any stopping this train. Ray Dalio, Bridgewater founder, warns of geopolitical risks from economic warfare in China. And I think when things really start to hit the fan, people aren't going to be, making these speculative bets in, certain meme coins, in a year, 2 years from now. I think people are going to be investing in safe haven, farmland, gold, precious metals, certain real estate, second passports. People are going to be looking for ways in which they can diversify and spread out risk. Because when you have, a US dollar being questioned right now, and you walk into this really big transformation for the entire global financial system, people are going to be looking to take the risk off the table. What do you think about this entire situation? Drop below. Let's have a conversation about this. And today's video is sponsored by Rua Gold. For more information, you can click the link in the description just below this video. Catch you next video.